The atmosphere in the Los Angeles recording studio was electric, but not in the way anyone had hoped. What had begun as an ambitious project, an unprecedented collaboration between Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj, was now spiraling into something far more chaotic. The promise of merging Swift's poetic, emotionally charged songwriting with Minaj's razor-sharp lyricism had set the industry abuzz. It was supposed to be history in the making, but behind the closed doors of the studio, tension simmered dangerously close to boiling over. For weeks, insiders whispered about creative clashes, murmurs of disagreements that had slowly morphed into full-blown conflicts. At first, the differences had been manageable. Taylor, ever the perfectionist, preferred a structured, meticulous approach. She arrived at the studio armed with neatly organized notebooks filled with lyrics, bridge transitions carefully plotted out, melodies rehearsed in advance. Nicki, on the other hand, thrived in chaos, spitting verses in the heat of the moment, letting the music guide her words rather than confining herself to rigid structures. At first, their opposing methods had been a source of creative tension, a push-and-pull dynamic that kept their sessions alive with energy. But as the album progressed, that tension sharpened into something more volatile. One particular evening, tensions finally reached a breaking point. A producer had just played back a track they had been working on for the past 2 days. The song, originally a stripped-down ballad with a soft acoustic melody, had undergone several transformations. Taylor had envisioned a raw, emotional track, one that would strip away the glamour and cut straight to the core of heartbreak. Nicki, however, had other ideas. "I hear something different for this," Nicki had said, drumming her perfectly manicured nails against the console as the track played. "It needs more bass, more heat. It's too soft. We got to give the people something they can move to." Taylor, seated across from her, sighed, but it wasn't the kind of sigh that suggested compromise. "That's the point," she said, her voice calm but firm. "It's supposed to feel intimate. The emotion gets lost if we overproduce it." Nicki arched an eyebrow. "Lost to who? You? 'Cause the rest of the world? They want to feel it in their chests, not just in their feelings." The room fell into an uneasy silence. The producer glanced nervously between the two women. A handful of engineers exchanged knowing looks. They had all felt it building for days, the friction, the clashing visions. At first, it had seemed like nothing more than two artists with strong opinions working through the kinks of a collaboration. But now it was different. Taylor pressed her lips together, choosing her words carefully. "I get it. You want energy, but this one isn't about that. This song is supposed to be raw." Nicki let out a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Raw doesn't mean boring, babe." The words stung, and Taylor felt her face flush. It wasn't just about this one song. It was about the entire project, the entire process. It had become a pattern, one that neither of them wanted to acknowledge outright. Their differences were no longer just artistic quirks. They were roadblocks. Nicki pushed back from the console, shaking her head. "Look, I respect your vision, but we're supposed to be doing this together, right? That means meeting in the middle. Otherwise, what's the point?" Taylor's blue eyes flickered with frustration, but she kept her voice steady. "I thought that's what we were doing." Another silence, this one even heavier than before. Finally, the producer cleared his throat. "Maybe we should take a break. Come back to this tomorrow." Neither Taylor nor Nicki argued. The session was done for the night. As they left the studio, separately, it was clear that the rift between them had grown wider. What had begun as a creative dream was now at risk of unraveling before their eyes. The industry had expected a legendary collaboration, but now the only thing legendary about this project was the tension simmering behind the scenes. The first whispers of trouble started within the walls of the recording studio, but it didn't take long for the tension to spill out into the digital world. The fans were always watching, dissecting every move, every like, every carefully worded caption. And when Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj, two of the most followed artists in the industry, began dropping cryptic posts, the internet did what it did best: speculated, theorized, and fueled the flames of controversy. It started subtly at first. Taylor, who had been posting behind-the-scenes snippets from the studio, suddenly went silent. For days, there were no updates, no soft-filtered photos of notebooks filled with handwritten lyrics, no midnight musings about melodies. Then out of nowhere, a single tweet appeared. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to keep fighting for something that no longer feels right. The Swifties took to the comments instantly. Was she talking about the album? Was she having second thoughts about the collaboration? Or was this just another of Taylor's many layered messages meant to be interpreted through the lens of her poetic songwriting? Then came Nicki's post. Unlike Taylor, who often wrapped her emotions in metaphors, Nicki was blunt, unfiltered. She posted an Instagram story, a black screen, white text. Never dim your light for anybody, even when they try to make you feel small. The barbs didn't hesitate. Within minutes, Twitter was flooded with theories. Some claimed it was directed at an unnamed industry figure, while others were convinced it was about Taylor. The timing was too perfect. Just a day earlier, a well-placed industry source had leaked to an entertainment blog that the two stars had been clashing in the studio over creative control. Then more fuel was thrown onto the fire. A fan account noticed that Taylor had quietly unliked one of Nicki's recent posts. A photo of her in the studio with the caption, "Big things coming, but only if they align with the vision. You feel me?" To some, it was a meaningless digital interaction. But to the fans who had spent years tracking their idol's every move, it was a sign. Something was definitely off. Before long, major media outlets picked up on the tension. Headlines screamed of a feud brewing between the two megastars. "Creative differences or creative war," read one. "Swift versus Minaj. Is the dream duo falling apart?" questioned another. Talk shows speculated, late-night hosts made jokes, and YouTube analysts broke down every micro-interaction between the two over the past few months. Nicki, true to form, addressed the rumors with a dismissive tweet. "Y'all love a good story. I'm just focused on making music. Stay mad, though." But even that response felt layered. Was she denying the rumors, or was she throwing shade at the way the industry, and maybe even her collaborator, was handling things? Taylor, on the other hand, remained quiet. No clarifications, no interviews, no attempt to quell the rising storm. The silence was louder than any tweet. And in an era where digital interactions were just as meaningful as real-life ones, the fact that both women had stopped liking each other's posts spoke volumes. The internet was now divided. Some fans rushed to defend their favorite, insisting the media was blowing things out of proportion. Others speculated that the entire thing was a PR stunt, designed to build anticipation for the album. But the most die-hard followers knew better. Something was wrong, and as the days went by without an official statement, the speculation only grew. The collaboration that had once promised to break records was now on the verge of breaking apart, and the world was watching every digital breadcrumb, desperate to piece together the truth. The silence was deafening. Days passed, then weeks. What had once been the most anticipated collaboration of the year had now turned into a ghost of a project, its fate uncertain. The fans were left with nothing but speculation, their excitement curdling into anxiety. Was the album still happening? Or had everything, every track, every session, every vision, been abandoned? Neither Taylor Swift nor Nicki Minaj had said a word. No press statements, no interviews, no social media updates. It was as if they had both disappeared into their own worlds, retreating into their corners like boxers between rounds, waiting for the bell that might never ring. The industry was buzzing with theories. Some insiders whispered that the album had been scrapped entirely. Others claimed that Taylor and Nicki were locked in a silent battle, both refusing to be the first to walk away, the first to admit defeat. The once promising union of two of the world's most influential artists had become a chess game where neither player was willing to make the final move. For those close to them, the shift was palpable. The energy that had once crackled in the studio had gone cold, replaced by an eerie absence. Producers who had once been caught in the crossfire of their creative battles now sat in empty rooms, staring at unfinished tracks and unsent emails. Engineers who had once struggled to keep up with their intensity now found themselves with nothing to do. And then, almost without warning, the final sign came. Nicki unfollowed Taylor. It was subtle, but it was enough. Within minutes, the internet exploded. Fans scrolled back through their interactions, searching for any sign that the decision had been brewing. Theories ran rampant. Had Taylor refused to compromise? Had Nicki walked away first? Had it been personal all along? Taylor, as if in response, made her own move. At midnight, without a word, she wiped her Instagram clean. Every post, every photo, every memory of the collaboration, gone. It was the closest thing to a confirmation the world was going to get. The dream had unraveled, thread by thread, until there was nothing left but silence. The album, if it had ever truly existed, was now just a what if, a project that could have been legendary, but instead dissolved under the weight of its own ambition. But the real question, the one that lingered in the minds of every fan, every critic, every journalist watching from the sidelines, was whether this was truly the end. Because if history had taught the world anything about Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj, it was that silence never lasted forever. And when they finally decided to speak, the world would be listening.